Have you ever wondered why so many cultures over thousands of years repeat the idea that what happens in the sky reflects what happens on Earth? The phrase, "as above, so below," holds one of the greatest secrets of the universe, a principle so deep that it connects the macrocosm to the microcosm, the visible to the invisible, the external to the internal. Today, we're going to uncover the hidden power behind this ancient wisdom and reveal truths that might change the way you understand reality. Stay with me, because what you're about to discover could change everything. Since ancient times, humanity has sought to understand the laws that govern existence, and the principle of correspondence is one of the most revealing keys to this knowledge. Originating from Hermetic teachings, this principle is encapsulated in the phrase, "as above, so below, as below, so above." But what does this really mean? The principle of correspondence suggests that there is a deep and unbreakable connection between the different levels of existence in the universe. In other words, the patterns we observe at one level, whether physical, spiritual, or mental, are reflected at other levels. This interconnection creates a universal harmony where the macrocosm, like galaxies and the movements of celestial bodies, mirrors the microcosm, like the atoms and particles that make up matter. For example, modern scientists observe that the movement of planets in the cosmos bears similarities to how electrons orbit around the nucleus of an atom. This relationship is no coincidence, but rather proof that there is an underlying symmetry in the universe. The same logic applies to other fields, such as biology and psychology, showing that the whole and its parts are in constant dialogue. Furthermore, correspondence also operates on more subtle and internal levels. When we look at our mind, our thoughts and emotions, we realize that they directly influence how we interact with the outside world. An internal state of peace and clarity reflects in more balanced and harmonious actions, just as internal conflicts can create chaos in our relationships and choices. It's as if life is a mirror, where what happens inside us is projected into the world outside. This principle reminds us that nothing in the universe exists in isolation. Everything is connected, like parts of a vast web that ties all aspects of reality together. And it's this integrated view that allows us to find meaning in seemingly random patterns and understand that there is a greater purpose behind the forces that shape our existence. Whether in science, spirituality, or everyday experiences, the principle of correspondence offers us a new perspective on how the universe works. It invites us to explore the connections that permeate life, recognizing that what is above and what is below are not opposites, but complementary parts of a whole. If the principle of correspondence teaches us that the macrocosm and microcosm are intrinsically connected, it is in the reflection between these two worlds that we begin to unravel their depth. What happens in the vast universe is mirrored in our personal existence, and what we cultivate within ourselves impacts the external world. This duality is both fascinating and transformative. Imagine the stars in the sky, forming galaxies and constellations. Each one follows precise mathematical and physical patterns, like a great living organism in motion. Now compare this to how a human cell functions, with organelles and molecules interacting in perfect harmony. In both cases, there's a sense of order and purpose that shows how the smallest fragment reflects the greatness of the whole. On the psychological level, this interconnection manifests in equally powerful ways. Our emotions, thoughts, and beliefs are not just isolated phenomena, they shape the reality around us. For example, someone who cultivates optimism tends to attract situations and people aligned with that energy, while internal patterns of negativity often find echoes in the external environment. This is not just spirituality, but also science, as evidenced by studies on neuroplasticity and the influence of mental states on human behavior. Furthermore, the reflection between the micro and macro reveals that universal wisdom is not just out there in the stars or scientific theories, it's within us. The microcosm, which is our mind, body, and spirit, contains the same laws that govern the cosmos. This means that by understanding ourselves, we can understand the universe. As Socrates said, "Know thyself, and you will know the gods and the universe." This perspective opens up a vast field of possibilities. When we recognize that we are connected to something greater, the way we live changes. We come to understand that every action, thought, or intention is not something small and isolated, but part of a grand universal pattern. This view invites us to align our inner microcosm with the principles that promote harmony in the macrocosm. When we seek balance in our own lives, we contribute to universal harmony. For, as the principle of correspondence teaches us, as above, so below. While the principle of correspondence shows us how everything is interconnected, the principle of polarity teaches us that this unity is made up of pairs of opposites that complement each other. Light and darkness, heat and cold, joy and sorrow, all these dualities coexist in a harmonious dance, forming the necessary balance for life to exist. More than separate forces, opposites are manifestations of the same essence. Polarity invites us to look beyond superficial appearances and recognize that the extremes are, in fact, interdependent. Without the darkness of night, we wouldn't appreciate the light of day. Without challenges, we wouldn't recognize victories. This perception not only promotes acceptance, but also helps us transcend the limited view of right or wrong. Udait, instead of fixating on judgments, we can realize that every situation, no matter how difficult it seems, contains the potential for learning and growth. In nature, polarity is evident everywhere. The magnetic poles of the Earth, for example, work together to create the magnetic field that protects the planet. The seasons, warm in summer, cold in winter, are interconnected cycles that allow for ecological balance. These natural examples show us that opposites do not cancel each other out. On the contrary, they complement each other, sustaining universal order. In the human realm, polarity is equally powerful. Our emotions, often perceived as positive or negative, are all necessary for our development. Pain, for example, can be the catalyst for the search for healing and transformation. Similarly, moments of happiness remind us of the value of gratitude. When we understand the interdependence of these experiences, we learn to live with more balance and purpose. This principle also invites us to reflect on how we deal with opposites in our lives. Often, we try to resist what we perceive as negative, seeking only the positive side. However, true harmony arises when we accept and integrate both. This does not mean resigning ourselves to challenges, but recognizing them as part of the journey. By applying the principle of polarity, we become more aware of the totality of life. We realize that each extreme has inherent value, and by embracing them, we come closer to true wisdom, that all aspects of existence are interconnected, forming a greater and more meaningful whole. Although the principle of correspondence offers us a deep and revealing insight into the interconnection of all things, its practical application is not without challenges and misconceptions. Understanding the complexity of this principle requires more than a simple intellectual acceptance. It demands a commitment to conscious practice and a willingness to transcend personal and cultural limitations. What many see as a simple law of cause and effect may, in fact, reveal itself to be an intricate web of patterns and dynamics that require discernment and patience to be fully understood. One of the most common misconceptions about the principle of correspondence is to reduce it to the idea of a simple law of attraction, where it is believed that by thinking or wishing for something, the universe aligns to bring it into our lives. While there is an element of alignment between thoughts, emotions, and the world around us, correspondence is much more than a passive form of manifestation. It requires a deep understanding of the interrelationship between all aspects of our existence. The universe doesn't just respond to our conscious desires, but also to the more subtle and unconscious patterns that shape our actions and experiences. Moreover, correspondence does not work on a linear level, as we often expect. The simple logic of positive thinking can be appealing, but it doesn't take into account the deeper layers of our psyche and the cosmos. The patterns of cause and effect may not be immediately evident, and often what we observe as a failure may, in fact, be a manifestation of a more complex pattern that is directing us toward greater growth. For example, when facing a difficulty, rather than seeing it as a failure or something negative, the principle of correspondence invites us to view the experience as a reflection of something internal that needs to be recognized, transformed, or released. In this sense, what seems like an obstacle may actually be a disguised opportunity for personal development. To overcome these challenges, a commitment to patience, introspection, and the willingness to question our own limiting beliefs is necessary. The process of embracing the principle of correspondence is not something that happens overnight. It requires constant practice, self-awareness, and most importantly, an openness to recognize that reality is neither simple nor linear. By doing so, we begin to realize that every moment, every thought, and every action is part of a greater, more complex pattern that is constantly evolving. Now that you've had a deeper glimpse into the principle of correspondence and the challenges that arise when trying to apply it in our daily lives, it's important to reflect on how this can transform our worldview and our actions. By realizing that everything is interconnected, we begin to understand that every thought, every emotion, and every action has the power to shape the reality around us. The key is to practice self-awareness, patience, and openness to the more subtle patterns that reveal themselves on our journey. If you're ready to take a deeper step toward understanding and applying this universal principle, I invite you to reflect on how correspondence is already operating in your life. What patterns are you seeing repeat? Which aspects of your inner life need more harmony with what you desire externally? The universe is constantly sending signals and synchronicities to guide us. It's up to us to be attentive and willing to work with these patterns. If you enjoyed this content, don't forget to like and share this video with your friends who could also benefit from these revelations. Subscribe to the channel to continue exploring deep topics on spirituality, consciousness, and the power we have to transform our lives. And of course, leave your comment below. What do you think about the principle of correspondence and how it might influence your personal journey? The power to create a reality more aligned with our true desires is in your hands. How about starting to practice correspondence right now?